Hey y'all, Mike with Cardboard Kingdom. Welcome back to another Disney Lorcana video. Today we're going to be getting spicy, discussing whether the first chapter of Disney Lorcana, the base set, it's been out for just over a year. Boxes are at an all-time high. Should this set be reprinted or not? It's a very polarizing topic. The people who dislike the sealed collectors and the enchanted collectors hope that more get reprinted, so it drives the price down. People who have the cards and have the sealed boxes and have the enchanteds obviously don't want it printed because then that's going to devalue all of the cards that they currently have, all the sealed boxes they currently have. And so there's kind of two schools of thought, and ultimately a lot of people just disagree on where to land on this. We'll get into that in a second. I'll share my thoughts. Before we get into that, one quick programming note on the video yesterday in that first chapter display bundle product where you get the two starter decks and the 6 first chapter booster packs. It has been communicated to me that that product is going to be on display on the 25th at Targets. Now, the infographic had multiple different dates. It was not very clear, but we got someone commented and said they have someone who works at Target and that the 25th is when those displays are going to be out. I would say your best bet is to just check Targets and maybe call your local Target if you're that invested in getting the box and see when it's going to be on display. And that would probably be your best bet. So the 25th tentatively is when those are going to be out. So I wanted to kind of share that with you guys. Moving into today's topic. So the first chapter reprint. I have historically been on the fence on this in terms of I understand the thought process of the first chapter should not be reprinted or should be reprinted because people need to play the game, they need to enjoy the game, they need to experience Lorcana, they need to build that collection, they need to just get interacting with the ecosystem, and the lower the price point to do that for some of these iconic cards, the better. And that's true, and I think there's something to that. Now my pivot, my counterpoint to that would be I think we have hit those levels, and I think we're at a fair spot. So we had someone comment yesterday on my video and they made some very well thought out points, and this video is not to bash them at all. I think it's a fair point of view to have. They said, hey, I want Lorcana to be at $100 is kind of the entry point to get a meta competitive deck. $100 and down should be our entry point. Obviously we know Pokemon had someone win worlds with like a $30 or $40 deck, which was pretty insane. And so I think at the end of the day, I love where the first chapter's at, and I think the prices are more than fair. And so we have TCG player filtered down to essentially the playable cards, right? So your non-foils, non-enchanteds, obviously sealed's out of this because we're talking from a player's perspective, but ultimately what is it going to cost to get some of these iconic cards from the first chapter? And I think that if you are very competitive, you want to build a very competitive deck, you're going to be going to like DLC events or these other maybe SGC con events, these bigger tournaments that have bigger prize money, trophy cards, etc. I think at the end of the day, you're just going to have to pay to play. And I think that that's okay. And I think that these decks are at a fair price point to do that. And the reason why I think that is because when you look at the first chapter, guys, there are only 4 cards in the entire set that right now are worth more than $10 a card. And they're 4 legendaries, and they're all different colors, which I love. So you have the Amethyst Elsa sitting at $10.35. You have the Sapphire Belle sitting at $11. You have the Maleficent Monstrous Dragon for Ruby sitting at $18 essentially. And then you have the Rapunzel for Amber sitting at $40. Obviously, that Rapunzel card is very, very expensive, and it's going to cost to build an Amber deck around that card, right? And I get it. $160 for a 4 of. You know, when you add in the rest of your cards, like you're looking at like a $200, $300, $400 deck minimum if you're including the Rapunzel, which is it's a great card, right? Great draw power overall, heals characters like Quest for 2. It's a really, really good card to have. And so I think that these prices are very, very fair when you look at the grand scheme of things. 4 cards that are over $10, 1 card that's over $20, and then the rest are $10 and less. And honestly, the most expensive steel card, you're looking at an $8.65 Whole New World and a $7 Tinkerbell. So you got super rares on the steel side of things. You don't have a legendary that's expensive, that is that expensive. But I just think when you take a step back and look at the overall price point of these cards if you're going to these bigger events and you truly want to get into Lorcana and you want to be competitive, and you want to build these top tier decks, going out and buying 4 Bells or 4 Maleficent Dragons or even 4 Rapunzels is not that big of a deal in the grand scheme of things. Yes, it might take a couple weeks. Maybe you got to set budgets. You got to go out and acquire the cards. Not going to sit here and tell you that buying 4 copies of a $40 card to put into a deck is easy. It's not. But I think that if you truly want to play Amber and you truly think the card is worth it, and you're going to be traveling to go to DLC Seattle or DLC Vegas, and you're that entrenched in the game as being a player and a competitor, I think it's worth it. And the reason why is because ultimately, if you're that competitive and you're going to these tournaments, the upside is winning a $10,000-$20,000 Mickey card and all these other prize cards along the way of the Rapunzel and the Cinderella and the Let It Go, the Dragonfire. And then you're going to qualify for Continentals and you're going to qualify for the Chance at Worlds. And these, you're getting reimbursed assuming you're that competitive and you're going to place well and you're that deeply entrenched. I think that it's, these prices are more than fair. And I think that reprinting the first chapter would be a big mistake on Ravensburger's behalf now, because I think that the cards are at a fair price, right? Go out and get 4 Mauis for Ruby, which you pretty much need a 4 of, no matter what deck you're playing for Ruby. They're under $9. Like, that's a very fair price. And so I think that at least right now, the current market for the first chapter is completely fair. And I think that if you truly are getting into Lorcana and money is an issue, but you want to get some decks, I mean, you can go on Dreamborn and you can search for all the different budget decks that you want. You can see here just on, I just searched for decks popular. The 4th option is a Locations aggro deck for set 6. It's Amber Steel, and it's a $57 deck. It's got 256 favorites. It's got a ton of views. It's a 60 card meta deck, right? So like, you can be competitive on the cheap side, right? You're just gonna have to get creative and get some interesting deck tech and figure that out. But at the end of the day, I think that it would be a significant mistake on Ravensburger's behalf, because no one wants to open packs and the cards are all immediately worthless. At the end of the day, they have rarity tiers for a reason. They have commons, uncommons, rares, super rares, and legendaries. The reason why they have those is because that creates a need for the cards, and there's less of the cards that you need, and some of those happen to be very good, like the Rapunzel. And I think that's just the nature of the TCG world and the nature of the business. And sure, it might gatekeep a few people, but they're going to have to get creative with other decks and other color types and maybe work their way up to playing the Rapunzel or the Maleficent Monstrous Dragon or whatever. But I think right now, Lorcana has done an amazing job at stabilizing the prices, making them cheap enough, making them affordable enough for someone to go out and build the deck that they want, whether that's a budget deck that costs $30 or whether that's a Amber deck that's a $500 deck and you have 4 Rapunzels in it and 4 Mufasas and all these expensive cards, right? You have to decide what's best for you. But at the end of the day, I think that these prices for the first chapter cards are well within reason, and I would think it would be a drastic mistake for Lorcana to reprint the first chapter. And once again, that just goes back to the fact that you don't want to pay. I mean, look, a retail pack is $5.99. You don't want to go to Target, buy 4 packs, and that instantly turn to zero. That is a negative experience with the hobby. That is going to drive people away whenever they buy these packs and all of the cards are worthless unless you pulled an enchanted, right? The 1 in 96 pull rate, look, 99 times or 96 out of 100 times you're not going to pull an enchanted, right? And so you could go buy 90 packs, not get an enchanted, and every card in there is then worthless because they've been printed into the ground. I think that will kill the game and that will kill the ecosystem much more than having one card that costs more than $20 in the entire set. And so I am firmly on the side of this should not be reprinted. Now look, people are going to come out of the woodwork and say, well, you have sealed boxes, so it's in your best interest and whatnot. And that's completely true. And that's fair, right? So I will admit my bias there. You can hate me for it. I don't care. At the end of the day, I think the card prices are well within reason to build a deck. Now, you might need to go the budget route and explore some more newer sets, right, that have cheaper cards and get some deck tech right and strategize, whatever. But at the end of the day, I think having one card that's playable that's over $20 for an entire set is that's well within reason. And I think that's completely fine. And if you can't afford that, then you have to go a different route. And at the end of the day, that's okay. Maybe you work your way up to it. Maybe you really, 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 really want to play that card. I think Ravensburger has done everything they can, especially in the case of Rapunzel, to give it some reprieve, whether that's the prize card, right? Obviously the cold foil prize card for the, top 16, there's not a lot out there. A lot of people, shout out to Dale if you're watching this, aren't playing with the foil version. But the prize wall copyright, they made a non-foil version just for anyone who goes to the DLC events and gets the prize wall tickets. They can then go out and get the alt art non-foil version, which is really, really cool. And apparently there's I didn't go to any DLC events this year, but it's been reported to me by a ton of people that they think there's more of the prize wall non-foil Rapunzel gifted with healings out there than even the dragon fires, because so many people were seeking out the Rapunzel. And so if that's true, I mean, we're talking about an additional like 20 to 30,000 copies of this card that have hit the market just from the prize wall. And at that point, you're like, look, the card is just really good and you need 4 of it. And so if you want to play Amber and you want to be serious in Lorcana, then you're going to go out there and buy that bullet. If not, then you're going to have to go somewhere else. But the Rapunzel Gifted with Healing Altar, I think it's still like over $100. Let's see here. Rapunzel Gifted with Healing. It's probably going to pull the normal one. We've got both. Okay, yeah. $107 for a light plate copy. There's only 40 on the market, wherever it said, 40 other listings, and this is a card that people have reported there's more than Dragonfire. And based on my last calculations, Dragonfire I think was ending around, like, don't hold me to this, but roughly an 18,000 card population if every participant got one. And so you're looking at they gave out as many as they could, right? An additional, let's just say 20,000 on the market if the people reported to me correctly. What more do you want them to do? Like, if you open packs and every single one of them is worthless, you're not going to enjoy the hobby. And that's just part of it. These cards have value, and that's just the nature of the business. If you want to, I know people do like Porcana, whatever, you do commons, uncommons, get creative with it, right? But if you are going to be competitive and you're going to play at the high levels and you're going to go to these tournaments, I think you have to pay to play. I think if they reprinted the first chapter again, it would be a grave mistake. And at the end of the day, I think that right now, the ecosystem for the first chapter, playable cards, is in a fantastic spot. I think that having 4 cards over $10, 1 card of those 4 being over 20 is completely reasonable. I think that if you're serious about Lorcana, look, most people are probably going to start with like a starter deck anyway. And so then they've got 2 colors and they can slowly build on top of that, start to build their deck, build their collection, build their play sets. Like, I think there's a natural progression there. They might not need Rapunzel until they get much further down the line, but I think having one kind of iconic, expensive card, $40 in the entire set as it relates to playability is more than fair. So with that being said, guys, this is where I would love to hear your thoughts. I know this is a very polarizing topic. A lot of people hate people like me who have collections and have these sealed boxes. They demonize me. That's fine. Once again, I could care less. But I know a lot of people are like me that have these and they don't want to see it reprinted strictly for the collector's point of view, right? They don't want to see their cards be worth less because they're just simply more on the market, which is a piece of it. But I think just from a player's perspective, I think these prices are fair. And so that's where I want to know where you guys sit on this. Do you think another reprint is justified? Do you think that my story here with the cards being affordable enough is compelling? And look, I get it. I mean, like, if you're playing Ruby, do you need 4 Maleficent Monsters Dragons? That's $80. Do you need 4 Mauis? That's almost $40. Do you need 4 Be Prepared? That's another, almost $40. So between those 3 cards, that's 12 cards of your 60 card deck. You're looking at, what is that, $150 or whatever? Like, that adds up, right? I get it. And so when you need multiple of these staples, that takes a toll. But once again, I just think that you can get creative, right? Whether that's a budget location aggro deck, or we've got some decks, Jasmine's Royal Party around 100, and these are just the popular. You have Pirate's Place top 8 set champs, $27, $88, $42, $80. And there's some more expensive ones, $224, $223. This probably has Rapunzel in it, I would guess. No, doesn't even have Rapunzel, and it's a $223 deck. But regardless, I think the prices are at a very, very fair spot in terms of the first chapter specifically, and I think it would be a mistake for Ravensburger to reprint the set again. So I would love to hear your guys' thoughts. Please let me know in the comments. I know this is a polarizing. Keep it civil. Keep it nice, but at the end of the day, I want to see what the community has to say about this particular topic. So with that being said, guys, we're going to call it quits here. I'll be back with another video soon. Bye.